Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of cell-sized wearables.
So last time we talked about a lot of the basics, right?
We did.
The basic science, the advantages these tiny devices have over traditional treatments.
Right.
And, some of the technical challenges that are still out there.
Yeah, there are also challenges with new tech.
For sure.
And we talked about how these devices could potentially be used to treat MS.
Yeah, multiple sclerosis.
Sure.
By acting as this sort of artificial myelin.
Exactly.
To help restore damaged nerve function.
It's really promising stuff.
It is. It's pretty mind-blowing.
It is, yeah.
So now let's zoom out a little bit.
Okay, sounds good.
And talk about some of the bigger implications of this technology.
Yeah, let's explore that.
One thing that immediately comes to mind is the potential for these cell-sized wearables to treat other neurological disorders.
Oh, absolutely.
Besides MS.
Besides MS, yeah.
Like, we're talking about a whole range of conditions here.
We are.
Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease,
Right.
epilepsy,
Right.
spinal cord injuries,
Yeah,
even certain types of blindness.
that's right.
It's amazing.
It is. The possibilities are really vast.
So each of these disorders obviously presents its own challenges.
Mm-hmm. Why, of course.
But the underlying principle is the same.
Right.
We can use these devices to actually modulate neuronal activity.
In a very targeted way.
Exactly. And that's the key.
Yeah.
So potentially we could be looking at alleviating symptoms.
Right.
Or even modifying the disease course.
This is really exciting.
So let's start with Parkinson's disease.
Okay.
How could these devices potentially help people living with this condition?
So Parkinson's disease is characterized by the loss of dopamine-producing neurons in a specific part of the brain.
Right.
It's called the substantia nigra.
And this loss of dopamine leads to, all those classic Parkinson's symptoms, right? Tremors, rigidity, difficulty with movement.
Yeah, all of that.
And right now, current treatments, they just focus on managing those symptoms.
Right, often with medications that can have, unpleasant side effects.
Exactly, and they don't actually address the root of the problem.
The loss of those dopamine-producing neurons.
That's right.
That's the key.
So how could these cell-sized wearables actually change that?
Well, researchers are looking at the possibility of using these devices to directly stimulate the remaining dopamine-producing neurons, essentially encouraging them to produce more dopamine.
So like giving those neurons a little boost.
Yeah, kind of like a pep talk.
I like that analogy.
It works.
And because these devices are so precise,
right,
we could potentially avoid a lot of those widespread effects.
Yeah, and side effects.
That you see with the medication.
Exactly.
That's a huge advantage.
It is.
Okay, so that's Parkinson's.
Right.
What about Alzheimer's disease?
Okay, so Alzheimer's.
That's another huge one.
It is. It's a really complex neurodegenerative disorder.
Yeah.
It's characterized by the buildup of those abnormal protein deposits in the brain.
Right.
And that leads to progressive cognitive decline.
Yeah, it's a devastating disease.
It is. And unfortunately, just like MS, there's no cure for Alzheimer's.
That's right. So current treatments.
They're all about managing symptoms and trying to slow the progression of the disease.
But they can't undo the damage.
Not yet, no.
So where do these cell-sized wearables fit into this picture?
Well, imagine if we could use these devices to actually clear away those harmful protein deposits.
Wow.
Or even prevent them from forming in the first place.
That would be amazing.
It would be a game changer.
It's like having these tiny little cleaning crews working inside the brain.
Yeah, like little nanobots going in and cleaning up the mess.
I love that.
So researchers are looking at a bunch of different ways to try to achieve this.
Okay, like what?
Like using the devices to stimulate the brain's natural waste clearance mechanisms.
Oh, interesting.
Or to deliver very targeted therapies that can break down those protein deposits.
So we're talking about not just treating existing conditions,
right,
but maybe even preventing them.
Potentially, yeah.
That's incredible.
It's a really exciting area of research for sure.
It is.
And the challenges are big, but the potential rewards are enormous.
I can see that.
Just imagine a future where we can intervene at the very earliest stages of these diseases.
Wow.
Maybe prevent or delay the onset of symptoms.
Yeah.
And preserve cognitive function for much longer.
That would be revolutionary.
It would.
Okay, so we've talked about Parkinson's, Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
What about some of those other conditions you mentioned?
Yeah.
Like epilepsy and spinal cord injuries.
Okay, so epilepsy, it's a neurological disorder characterized by seizures.
Which are caused by
abnormal electrical activity in the brain.
Right.
Right now, treatments are all about managing those seizures with medication or sometimes surgery.
Right.
But they don't get to the root of the problem.
The abnormal electrical activity.
Exactly.
So could these tiny devices be used to somehow control or prevent those seizures?
That's exactly what researchers are looking into.
Wow. Okay, how?
Imagine implanting these devices in the brain and programming them to detect the specific brain activity patterns that happen right before a seizure.
So they're like an early warning system.
Exactly.
For seizures.
And then they could intervene to stop the seizure from happening.
That's amazing.
It could potentially lead to a significant reduction in the frequency and severity of seizures.
That would be life-changing for a lot of people.
It would.
Okay, what about spinal cord injuries?
Spinal cord injury.
They're notoriously difficult to treat.
They are. They can result in paralysis
Yeah.
or loss of sensation below the injury site.
You should.
Because the damage to the spinal cord disrupts the transmission of nerve signals between the brain and the rest of the body.
And right now, there's really no way to repair that damage, right?
Not effectively, no.
So how could these tiny devices help in that area?
Well, researchers are exploring the idea of using these devices to bridge the gap in the damaged spinal cord.
So creating a kind of bypass.
Exactly, a bypass for those nerve signals.
I was like rewiring the damaged circuitry.
You got it.
Wow. Okay, so how would that actually work?
Imagine implanting these devices right at the injury site and then stimulating them to transmit those nerve signals across the damaged area.
So you're basically restoring communication
between the brain and the body below the injury.
That's incredible.
It is. It's very promising research.
It seems like there's no end to the potential applications of this technology.
It's truly amazing what's being done. It's really pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
Okay, so we've talked about Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, epilepsy, spinal cord injuries.
Right.
Now, what about those certain types of blindness you mentioned earlier?
Ah, yes. So certain types of blindness.
Like retinitis pigmentosa?
Yeah, retinitis pigmentosa.
And age-related macular degeneration.
Those are caused by damage to the photoreceptor cells in the retina.
Right, the cells that convert light into those electrical signals.
Exactly.
Like the brain can understand.
And when those cells are damaged,
yeah,
it disrupts that flow of visual information to the brain.
Which leads to vision loss. Right.
So could these cell-sized wearables actually replace those damaged photoreceptor cells?
That's the hope.
Wow.
Researchers are looking at the possibility of implanting these devices in the retina and then stimulating them to send those electrical signals to the brain.
So they're like little artificial eyes.
In a sense, yeah.
Wow.
It's still early days for this research.
Right.
But the potential to restore vision is really remarkable.
It's mind-blowing.
It is.
Every time we talk about a new potential application, it gets more and more amazing.
The possibilities are truly vast.
But they are.
And as we learn more about these cell-sized wearables, who knows what we'll discover.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this episode.
We have.
We've talked about how these cell-sized wearables work.
Right.
Their advantages over traditional treatments, the technical challenges, and all these potential applications.
For so many different neurological disorders.
It's been quite a journey.
It has, but we're not done yet.
That's right. We've got one more part to go. In our next installment, we'll be diving into the current research in this field.
That's right. We're going to get a glimpse into the future of this technology.
So stay tuned, because the best is yet to come.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring this amazing world of cell-sized wearables.
It's been a wild ride, for sure.
It has been. We've talked about how they work, all their potential advantages, and, of course, all those technical challenges.
And we've also talked about all sorts of possible applications for a whole bunch of different neurological disorders.
That's pretty incredible stuff.
It really is. It's a game changer, potentially.
So in this final part, I think it would be cool to shift our focus a bit.
Okay.
And talk about what's happening right now in the research world.
That's a great idea.
Like what breakthroughs might be just around the corner.
Yeah, the future's looking pretty bright for this technology.
I'm picturing a future where we can basically upgrade our brains.
Well, maybe not quite yet.
Okay.
But the pace of research is really impressive.
That's great.
One area that's particularly exciting is the development of even more sophisticated biocompatible materials.
Right, because we need to make sure these devices can live inside the body for a long time without causing any harm.
Exactly. We don't want them triggering an immune response or anything like that.
It's like they need to have a cloaking device or something.
Yeah, to hide from the body's defenses.
I like that analogy.
So researchers are working on new polymers and coatings that can mimic the body's own tissues.
So it's all about stealth.
Stealth and biomimicry, yeah.
That's awesome. What else is out there on the research horizon?
Another big focus is improving the precision and control of these devices.
Okay, so we want to make sure...
We want to make absolutely sure that they can target very specific neurons, or even groups of neurons, with pinpoint accuracy.
Without affecting the surrounding cells.
Exactly. We don't want any collateral damage.
It's like a GPS system for the brain.
I like that.
Guiding these tiny devices to their exact destination.
It's a good analogy. Researchers are using all sorts of cool techniques to achieve this level of control. Like focused ultrasound, magnetic fields.
Wow.
All to guide the devices and the light that activates them.
So it's all about maximizing the therapeutic benefit.
Right.
And minimizing the risks.
That's the goal.
Absolutely. What about miniaturization?
Ah, yes, miniaturization and integration.
Remember how we talked about adding sensors and circuits, even drug delivery systems?
Right, we're talking about creating multifunctional devices, tiny little devices that can not only monitor and modulate neuronal activity, but also deliver drugs or even help repair damaged tissue.
So they're like a microscopic medical team.
Exactly, operating at the cellular level.
So just to recap, we're potentially talking about treating Parkinson's by stimulating specific neurons to produce more dopamine,
right?
Repairing damaged spinal cords by bridging that gap with these devices, and who knows what else.
The possibilities are really quite amazing.
It's an exciting field, that's for sure.
It is. It really sparks the imagination.
It does. But I think it's important to remember that, with any powerful technology, there are potential risks.
Of course.
And ethical considerations, too.
We need to be careful.
We do.
As we develop these tools, we need to use them responsibly.
That's a good point. It's kind of daunting.
It is.
When you think about it.
To think about the power we're gaining to actually interact with our own biology.
At such a fundamental level.
But the potential benefits are so great.
They are.
That it's absolutely crucial to keep pushing the boundaries.
I agree.
Always striving to use this technology for good.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of cell-size wearables.
It's been an incredible journey.
It has. We've explored some groundbreaking science.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I hope our listeners are as fascinated by all of this as we are.
I hope so, too.
The future of cell-size wearables.
It's bright.
It's incredibly bright.
Thanks for joining us.
Like and subscribe for more super knowledge like this.